Ready or Not is sensational. The early access gig was bang on, but Sweet Mary Poppins, the full release, is a proper diamond. Void Interactive ain't messing about. They've gone and knocked it out the park. And for anyone who's feeling a bit mugged off by those scummy early access practices of late, Ready or Not is the perfect antidote. It's just pure, unadulterated gaming bliss. Now the $1 million question: can Ready or Not pinch the crown from the ultimate police tactical shooter, the governor of the genre, SWAT 4? Well, grab yourself a cuppa, because we're about to spill the beans in today's review. Ready or Not sticks you in the driver's seat of a 5-man SWAT team on a mission to rescue hostages and give the bad blokes a good old slap. This ain't your typical military shooter with daft skins and high-tech gadgetry. No lads, this is a proper thinking man's tactical shooter. You can channel your inner Sherlock and go all stealthy like the European police forces, trying to nab the suspects without them knowing that you're actually there, but run the risk of getting caught in the act and being slapped upon yourself. Or if you're feeling proper American, you can go in guns blazing, asking for compliance as they bleed out on the floor. The best part, every time you tackle a map, there are new ways to take on a scenario, and it never feels the same. And fear not, you've got all the right tools in your arsenal to make sure the suspects have what's coming to them. Take the Opta One for instance, a gadget that looks a bit like a camera on top of a dildo. It lets you slyly peek under doors and scope out what proper twats are lurking behind. Now, depending on your mood, you can either sneak in like Bill Cosby on a quiet night, or go all out, bust a door down with C2 and send in the coppers frothing at the mouth, hoping to give the suspects the scare of their lives. Just be careful though, because too much noise and you might have the whole neighbourhood coming to see what you're up to. And then there's other tools as well: flashbangs, riot shields, door wedges to block off dodgy areas, and lockpicks. Your loadout ain't a bottomless pit either. You need a team as balanced as your nan's Sunday roast. I went for night vision goggles, but I could have gone full Mad Max with a gas mask or anti-flash goggles. As for my gun attachments, I swapped out the torch for an infrared laser just to add a bit of Cockney stealth to proceedings. You can mix and match these loadouts like you're picking your squad for a proper footy match. A breaching unit here, a preventative unit there, the whole shebang tailored for each scenario. None of this fancy gadgetry is worth a look though if the AI is as useful as a chocolate teapot. But hold on to your knickers, because with the full release of Ready or Not, the AI has had a proper makeover, a facelift if you will. As a solo player myself, making sure my SWAT team ain't a bunch of numpties is a critical part of my enjoyment. Back in the early access days, the teammates were about as clueless as a tourist in Trafalgar Square, stacking up single file in front of doors, not covering the angles. It was a right dog's dinner. But now they've got their act together, stacking up proper like they've been into SWAT school, splitting up and entering a room in the right order based on who's got a riot shield or a shotgun. The AI's had a full rework too, from how they clear rooms to how they stroll around the map, offering the best cover based on what formation that you select. Before, Ready or Not felt like you were a bit of a lone wolf with a bunch of extras, but now you've got a team that's capable as you are. The dynamic then of the single player has had a proper makeover, which is great for those of you who don't want to venture into the multiplayer mode. So let's talk about managing your team. Just like in the SWAT games of old, you've got your team gold, made up of 2 red teammates and 2 blue teammates. With a click of a button, you are the boss, ordering your crew to stack up behind doors, breach like pros, or cover your backside. Split them up if you fancy. Maybe send the red team into one room while the blue team keeps an eye out, or have them both burst through different doors like a proper coordinated Cockney gang. It's the smooth moves in these missions that crank up the tension, and the controls are as easy as nicking candy from a baby once you're up and running. Now, the real magic happens when you spot a massive room, clock the dodgy blokes inside, and start planning your grand entrance. It's like orchestrating a proper song and dance. Your team gracefully waltzing in, tossing flashbangs like confetti, and demanding compliance. It's a hugely satisfying moment, seeing suspects surrender to their knees, Kim Kardashian style, and you never once fire a bullet. I won't lie though, with these changes, a few bugs have snuck in. Some doors got my team standing there like a bunch of lemons, refusing to budge no matter how many times I barked orders at them. But let's be honest, it's nothing a few patches can't sort out. Which brings us nicely onto enemy engagement. Remember, shoot only when you're up against it, always shout for compliance, and never assume anyone's safe. The suspects are needed alive to get the highest ranking after each mission, but they don't make it easy. Their AI is as sharp as a razor, and these dodgy blokes might pretend to surrender only to whip out a shooter or bolt for the nearest closet if they reckon the boys in blue mean business. You can never let your guard down in Ready or Not. The shootouts are like a proper game of cards too, unforgiving but never downright infuriating. If you take a couple of bullets, you'll be singing with the angels, but it works both ways. Guns here, they ain't toys, they're tools to bring order to the chaos. Ready or Not is all about moving through a level with the precision of a diamond cutter as you drop chem lights to signal that you've cleared a room. But there is always a but, and I've got a few wishes on my list here. Single player on the bigger maps can feel daunting, and it wouldn't hurt to call in other coppers to cover an area that you've already cleared, just in case some suspect stragglers are playing hide and seek. I'd love the option for dynamic entry points as well, where you get to pick your entry point for breaching. And what's missing is the eye in the sky, snipers with a view on key rooms, or a helicopter to give running commentary of what's happening below, just like the good old days of SWAT 4. Give us a bit more commentary here, a storyline update from the commander over the radio. Make it less lonely in the field and far more immersive. Now, my biggest ask of all though is give us the ability to cut the power to the house that you're searching, allowing for some full-on night vision action. These are just my wishes, but thank the gaming gods for the modding scene. Who knows what kind of magic awaits us in the future. Ready or Not's full release though does offer many features we didn't have before. There's a solid tutorial for the newcomers. There's a campaign vibe going on too, where maps only open up in order once you've given them a proper see into. Now the officers you've got in your squad, they ain't there just for a laugh. They get stressed out like the rest of us, mess up a mission, and they might be a bit shoddy in the next one. And here's the kicker: permadeath, lose an officer and they're gone for good. But on the bright side, the more they go through, the more tricks they have up their sleeve. Unique traits like making suspects surrender more often can be unlocked with experience, which is proper handy in the later maps. Now let's have a quick chinwag about the so-called controversy around Ready or Not. Some folks got their knickers in a twist about the school shooter and nightclub scenarios because it felt a bit close to the bone, I guess, but let me just say it's a storm in a teacup. The maps and scenarios are straight out of the real world that we live in, the kind of shitty situations that unfortunately do happen, but you're the good guy here. You ain't the villain. The game takes it dead seriously too. Try to top off a civvy and your own team will put you down like a rabid dog. Pop a cap and a fellow cop and you'll be kissing the pavement in no time. In a world where I can play games like GTA, have sex with a prostitute, beat her to a pulp and then steal her money, I reckon a SWAT simulator with a serious approach to its content is being punished somewhat unfairly by the press. Let's have a chat on the graphics. It's a proper tour de force here. Ready or Not knocks it out the park with the tone and artistic direction. It's moody, it's dark, and the rain comes down like a proper London drizzle. The lighting's spot on too, casting shadows in all the right places, giving enough cover to suspects. It forces you to whip out your flashlight or go full James Bond with the night vision. I, for one, shit my pants clearing out some underground tunnels. The models are top notch too, animations are mostly spot on with a little clipping here and there, and the materials behave just as you would expect. Shoot a bloke through a wooden door and it's a different dance than when he's hiding behind steel. Flashbangs will turn you into Stevie Wonder for a brief moment, and explosions mess with your vision just enough to keep you on the toes when you burst into a room. As for maps, they deserve a proper shout out, designed and planned like a proper pub crawl. There are enough angles to keep you sweating. It adds a strong dose of replayability. Some maps are a right headache with multiple levels that are probably best tackled in multiplayer where you're one of the officers in the mix. Others though are more solo friendly, giving you plenty of time to work a room using items for cover. The full release even throws in some new maps as well as some redesigned ones, along with a new police station as your home base of operations. It all looks so authentic, reinforcing the notion that this is no muckabout game. It's a serious tactical shooter. Since the full release, my game has been a bit choppy though, with my FPS doing the jitterbug bug at 4K, and DLSS, well, it feels like it's on holiday, as it seems to do very little. But again, I reckon they'll sort it out with a few patches here and there, because previously it did run flawlessly on my machine. Perhaps my favourite part of all though is the sound design. It makes me wet in my pants for all the right reasons. SWAT 4 Modded, in my book, had one of the best soundscapes in any shooter game, and Ready or Not, I'm pleased to say, has gone and cranked it up a notch. The sound quality here is top notch, with guns having their own unique voice, echoing and thumping around buildings. When those explosions hit, it's like a rock concert for your eardrums, and the bullets zipping past your head will have you diving for cover like a rat down a drain. But it ain't all about the bombastic sounds. Ready or Not knows when to keep it down and build that proper tension. There are loads of quiet moments where the music eases in, setting the mood just right. They've even gone and redesigned the soundstage entirely for the full release. Sounds now bounce around the map more realistically, and who might hear it in your neck of the woods depends on where that sound comes from. Hats off to Void Interactive then for giving this aspect so much attention to detail. And finally, the voice lines. They've thrown in a right boatload of them. Your team shouting compliance orders or suspects shouting back at you. It all gets your ticker racing, that's for sure. With a pair of headphones on, Ready or Not is an absolute dream. It is pure eargasm stuff. Ready or Not then is one of the sleeper hits of the year. If you've already dipped your toes in the early access pond, you've got a taste of what this game's about. But for you lot diving in for the first time, brace yourself for a proper good tactical shooter that treats you like a grown-up with its mature themes and content. It's a gaming feast offering you multiple ways to tackle scenarios, and it does so with such fluidity. The game not only sounds wonderful, but it looks $1 million too, and it's a proper tip of the hat to the early access program. I haven't had this much fun in a game all year, and even with a few features still in the missing persons list, Ready or Not rightfully snatches the crown from SWAT 4 as the ultimate tactical shooter. Bravo, Void Interactive, bravo. Until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.